Welcome, welcome, welcome. Are we in a new situation here at the A Travel Talk Show? We are extremely on remote location here, and we're honored to have our guest around today who'd be joining us is now the newly Rind Vice President of Leger Marketing will be joining us. And we're very happy to have him back with his insight, his knowledge, and everything that he brings to the tourism industry. So we are very happy to bring back Mr. Edwin Sheppard. So welcome to episode 22. As you see, it's a little bit of a solo show, I know, because here's the situation. We're so lucky. We're on this Yukon a road trip. We've been out here. We're researching the Yukon. And yes, we have done some pretty wonderful things, which we'll talk to. But in the Yukon, Wi-Fi is a big issue. So we need to improvise. So we have had to basically make sure that we are in the right time, right place in order to have internet. So right now, for you lucky followers around the world, the Tourism Brothers are solo. The other one's off screen here. He's going to be the echo. He will be the sidebar. He will be the background noises. So the moans and the ahs and maybe the moose calls are all coming from off screen. Ain't me. It's Junior over here. There you go. Okay. So this is our first episode here in the Yukon, and we're on the road in what we call our A road trip. So that's the hashtag A road trip. Let me throw that up for you guys to know all about it. And you can follow all our road trips forever and forever and forever by using that hashtag. And we've been putting everything on there as we're growing. We're going to get back a bit into that. But today, as I said, we're lucky to have Edwin Sheppard. He's in our green room. He's munching out on our poutine. He's having probably a Caesar or two and probably some Smarties, all made in Canada products. We will give Eddie the stage. And boy, we're lucky to have him to share with us a lot of the insight, because the last time we talked with Eddie, it was 3 months ago. Yep, 3 months ago. And anyone who's been in the tourism industry knows that it's basically done a 360 times 12 in those 3 months. So it's going to be very interesting to figure out what's going on there. Yes, this is Greg Girard. You might not notice me because I'm wearing my Yukon beard. I'm being a man out here in the north because Yukon beards are the thing, and we want to fit in. So we have not shaved, and in honor of the Yukon, we are not shaving. So they travel housekeeping. That doesn't mean rules change. They don't, because we have to satisfy corporate. So the housekeeping is, this is a live recording. And considering the situation, we're broadcasting here from a parking lot, yeah, because we've got another road trip to continue right after this show in the middle of Whitehorse, Yukon, and we are doing the show live, so things can happen. So again, you can watch this show again all day. You can share it tomorrow. Please do share this show with everybody on your social media feeds. We also publish it on ehCanadaTravel.com on our live scrolling feed, which you will also be able to see. But here's the little capture when you're in the Yukon. You're going to have to wait till we jump into internet in the next section. So hopefully Eddie doesn't mind if we don't put it up right away tomorrow. It might be a little bit late, but Eddie's a good guy. I think he understands. My name again is Greg Girard, Jr. here in the background. Poke your head in here, Cole.
Colin Girard, the other Yukon man.
Yep.
Happy to be here in the Whitehorse, Yukon.
Yep. So there he is. He's off screen because we have to accommodate our guest here. And we want to make sure we don't bump him off because of our really iffy internet. So my name is Greg. I'm the co-host here. We are the co-founder of airline.com, hence why we're on the road in our Maple Leaf RV. In our Maple Leaf RV.
Maple Leaf RV.
Yeah.
Co-pilot. Actually, captain.
Yeah.
Co-pilot.
I don't drive. I take pictures. I do notes. I work, actually. He drives. That's not work. So that's the little benefit here in our Maple Leaf. We call it the Maple Leaf RV, the Maple Leaf Bomber. We're very easy to spot. We've had honks all day sitting here in the parking lot. Probably made a few friends too. Co-founder, we are at the ehCanadaTravel.com. We're 23rd ranked travel blog. Find this Yukon adventure. You will see all our videos. You will see our the story put out on our blog. We'll break it up into segments because I'm telling you guys, we have seen wildlife all the way from Arctic fox, beaver, porcupine, black bear, grizzly, caribou. What am I missing? What am I missing?
I think you got it all.
Okay, good. So we got all the wildlife, but tons of it. And then the scenery. Well, the scenery, we probably got over 1,000, I guess 1,000, probably 1,000 hours, close to that, and maybe about 500 photos, the whole Dempster. So it's good.
Grizzly bear.
Did that one.
Okay.
Okay. So let me tell you, for you people, the reason why we picked the Yukon is, for one, COVID has made it that's the route we can go because we don't want to offend anybody. We're going where the governments are saying they allow people. We went through a COVID check when we entered the border. No surprise there. They asked us questions. They were very nice, very hospitable, and they even gave us a whole bunch. We might have gave it away with the RV, but they gave us a whole bunch of travel literature, and they said, "Here you go." So we said, "Okay, that works for us." Once in the Yukon, it was fantastic, and the reason we want the Yukon, because this is Yukon 2.0. Okay, this is our second trip. This is how much we love it here. The wide open spaces, very few crowds, and the unbelievable scenery and adventures that you can partake here: kayaking, canoeing, mountain biking, backpacking, camping, ATVing, dirt biking, snowmobiling, ice fishing, and cross-country skiing, to name a few. Huh?
Wildlife.
Wildlife sightings, yes.
Time of the year. These amazing
Yep.
colors we got.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and that's a very good point. Cape Breton gets a lot of cred for their fall colors. Now, this is what we call low season travel. This is when, in normal years, this is the best time to travel in Canada. The suns are still out, it's still relatively nice, and the scenery changes colors. Here on the Dempster and in the Yukon, their fall is here. Okay, their colors are unbelievable. Follow us on our social media and our website. You got the oranges, you got the yellows, you got the reds, you got the rust. It's just mesmerizing what the tundra, how many colors it turns. It's absolutely jaw dropping. I can't wait to share it.
Tundra.
So, a little thing about the Yukon. Not a lot of people think about it when they think about a travel destination. You should. Okay, we've been to everywhere in this country, and you should look at the Yukon. It's amazing. If you like history, it has it. If you like wilderness, it has it. If you like photography, it has it. If you like adventure, it has it. Yukon River is the third largest river in the world. Okay, we were there last night on the Yukon River, and what did we see, Call? 5 beavers.
Yes.
We saw a
Five
beaver.
beavers.
We actually got to sit there and have our morning coffee and watch a family of 5 beavers build their dam
Yeah.
on the
An hour.
Yukon. I mean, how cool is that, right? I mean, we just sat there and we saw them. They're bringing these huge logs down into the water, and they're tugging it, and then they're diving with these things. It was so cool. We got it on video, but again, gotta support us, because if you don't, you're not gonna know when we put it up, and I ain't gonna tell you when we're putting it up. So you're gonna have to follow. Okay. So it's also home to Canada's most northern desert, the Carcross Desert. We went by that on the last visit, and we go ATVing, and it's a true desert. A lot of people think the most northern is in Saskatchewan, and this desert often gets left out. But this is the smallest desert in the world, but it is a desert. All sand, all that same look as a desert would have it. Most of you know Mount Logan is here, second tallest peak that in North America. It's huge. Um, we don't have the gumption to climb it, but there are people that do have climbing gear and that do that. The nice and the cool thing here that people often forget: in the summer, you get 24 hours of sunshine, man. You could go golfing at 2 o'clock in the morning. Come on, what's not nice about that? Golfing at 2 in the morning. Winter, it's all dark, but guess what? You got northern lights above you. Oh, well, if it's going to be dark, okay, well, give me a light show. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty decent thing. Okay. 80% of this region is wilderness, hence why we're here, because there's tons of room to move around, tons of room to see, tons of scenery. It's home to the world's largest land migration of the porcupine caribou herd. So we went through it. It's a herd of 22,000 caribou, and it cuts through the Dempster and it goes up through that area. So when we're driving, when we went up the Dempster to our pin the flag Arctic Circle excursion, we had our eyes peeled for this 22,000 caribou herd. We didn't see it, but we did see it last time we were on, because we saw it along a ridge, and you could see all the caribou going, doing their thing, right?
Cool. Yeah.
That was cool. So we have seen it, but not on this trip. They played hide and seek on us. Bad caribou. Bad caribou.
Did see caribou.
Yes. Here's something you don't know. Moose outnumber people here 70,000 to 50,000. Yeah. I bet people didn't know. And guess what? You know how many moose we saw? We didn't see. We saw a lot of people. We didn't, when we were in Whitehorse, where we are, or Dawson City, we saw people. Um, didn't see any moose hanging out though. No,
You got bad moose luck, though.
I do have bad moose luck. I scare
You see
moose.
moose when you're with
I
me.
don't get to see moose. Colin gets to see moose. I don't get any. I don't get my moose.
Oh,
No, the official bird, bitch. I bet you don't know what it is. It's a raven. Yep, and we saw a ton of those raven. And supposedly they talk and sing and have the ability to cover over like I think 100 vocalizations. Right? Pretty cool bird. Not a bird you're going to go sightseeing for in my books. We were after the peregrine vulcans, gray vulcans. We saw a bald eagle, golden eagles. We saw a whole bunch of these birds. We had no idea what they were called, but hey, we call them birds, and we thought we were pretty close because they were flying. So I think so. So we also were broadcasting from the city of Whitehorse today from the parking lot in Somewheres in Whitehorse. And if you live here, hopefully you don't come knocking on our door because we have a guest coming on. Mr. Eddie Sheppard. Yes, it's home. We are, because we just came from the Arctic Circle and we're wearing these beards, and it just karma happens, right? So when we hooked up to our internet not too long ago, all of a sudden I see our friend here, Mr. Sheppard, getting promoted to vice president. Yeah, big wig now, right? So he wears the big boy pants, and we're still lucky that he comes and hangs out with us little fish in the A Talk Show. We're not really that little. People think we're little because we don't wear suit and ties, but we're not that little. Fooled you guys. So guess what? Eddie's smart enough, and he sees that. So he's coming on the show, and he's gonna share with us some of his stuff. Yeah. So I want to make a note. We are traveling, and we are following all the rules of traveling through COVID. We wear our mask in every store we go in, every closed store. And guess what? We are often the only ones doing it, but that's what they're telling us to do, so we're doing it. Maybe we're not the most popular dudes in the store half the time because we're wearing our masks, but you know what? Real men wear masks. Doesn't bother me. If you don't believe it, you do believe it. I don't care. I'm going to do it out of respect. Okay. I know old people, and that's the way I think we should all do it. Not a cool thing. It's just something we should do.
respect for your fellow human being.
Respect for your fellow human. Yep. And also the other thing is the only time we're only visited around people when pretty much when we get a Tim Hortons. That's probably our that's probably our big stop. Oh, does this town have a Tim Hortons?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There you go. There you go.
there you go. No plug. And yeah, okay, Tim Hortons, send the check in the mail. So what we're doing is we have followed all the rules. We have not broken any of the rules. Plus, there's another rule that we do go by that no one talks about, but they're very, very conscious of it here is littering. So again, we leave no trace behind, no littering. Make sure, and we also put money into each economy we have visited. We have put quite a bit of money in each economy because you know what, things go wrong with the RV, and guess what? You might have to buy a battery here and there. You might have to buy gas here and there, and there's also that feeding thing. Yeah, there are some things you need to know is that Yukon is great for pullouts. So if you're road tripping, which is the thing to do in this area, destinations with road pullouts are good. So you're not pulling long distance without resting. Plus, you could stop and enjoy the scenery without causing any accidents. Yukon's got that down pat. Roads are huge. Wi-Fi mentioned about it. Be careful. Plan your trip, okay? Because believe it, when you're a company that earns their bread through Wi-Fi, yeah, you got to think quick to put it up online, okay? And get rock chips. Expect your windshield to go bye-bye a few times. We've had two rock chips and two speedy glass visits to repair those rock chips. So those are just a couple of things. Okay, so um, let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Eddie Sheppard. He's, again, you've heard it. I like plugging it because I like when good people do, when good people get cred. I mean, I think it's pretty cool to give them cred, right? So I think our friend here, Mr. Eddie Sheppard, now vice president, deserves that. He's a class act and he does a good job. I'm very happy to have him on board to share his insight involving his trends and habits of the travel and tourism industry. And it's going to be interesting because if you go back 3 months, watch that show and this show, I'm sure things have changed. Leger Marketing, if you do not know, is Canada's largest polling company. So again, we're very fortunate to have Eddie on the show. Eddie specializes in Canadian international tourism statistics, analytics. So you can only imagine how much knowledge this guy holds in his little pinky. I mean, it's pretty much more than a lot of people in this tourism industry that we were forced to work with. This guy has a lot of coups there. Colin and I are proud to invite back to the big show. The big show from the Maple Leaf Bomber RV in Whitehorse, Yukon Territories, far north from base camp. We like to invite back Mr. Vice President Eddie Sheppard.
Eddie.
There he is, Eddie. Woo!
How's it going?
Good. Thanks you, Eddie, for coming on the show again. As you know, we are always stoked when you come on, and hopefully this becomes a regular thing where you can bring us all up to speed on what's going on out there, because it's changing, buddy.
Yeah, I love it. And up until about an hour ago, I had a beard as well. So it wasn't a Yukon beard, but I shaved it off for
Nice.
you guys here. So
there you go. Well, we put on a beard for you.
we should have coordinated. We could have known.
We could have made a tribute to Yukon all the way. Right. So tell me a little bit about what's going on out there, big guy. I mean, you're what about this new your new promotion? Like, what's this bring on your plate? What does it involve now?
Yeah, so now I'm in charge of the Calgary office and kind of all business development and operations down in Calgary here. So a little more on my plate for that side of things. So I'm going to step more into the business development role and kind of getting client leads and doing that kind of work. I'll still do the analytics and the research side, because that's what I love to do. So I can't let go of that. But yeah, so it's a lot more of the the political stuff on my plate now, and more of the management side of things. So it's a good change. It's going to be quite a bit different, but got to dive into it head first. So we'll see how it goes.
You know what? I can't wait till we come up and do our little road trip your way, and come and have a little chit chat face to face. I'll even shave for you, buddy.
Or maybe I'll grow my beard out. We'll get coordinated. I want to see the first video, because I haven't cut my hair since pre-COVID. So I want to go back and reference what's going on here with my hair.
Yeah. So I guess I mean let's talk some some serious with some fun here. We got Eddie, this industry is this whole Yukon trip. We talked a little bit in the green room while you were munching down on our goodies there. I mean, they're free. Why not, right? So we talked a bit about the Yukon's really opened our eyes about things of what's going on here. It's the in-between spots, major centers are getting desecrated. You can really see the tourism are down, restaurants are closed, they're not even attempting to open. Attractions, info centers are all closed in the smaller areas. Libraries are closed. It's wow.
Yeah.
It's a whole new thing. So that's just what I'm saying. So Eddie, what do you think? For what sectors of the Canadian travel industry are suffering, and what sectors are coming out winners? What do you see there?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like since March, really, there's been almost 500,000 jobs lost. It's been $62 billion been lost. So just in tourism in Canada alone, which is that's a substantial amount of revenue that's just gone. What we're really seeing is that it depends on how businesses can adapt and their ability to adapt, really. So, the businesses that we're seeing are most successful are those that can shift their platform to online or the curbside pickup and delivery. So, again, smaller towns, it's hard to do that, because you don't necessarily have the skip the dishes and things like that in the smaller centers. So the curbside pickup and delivery service isn't as easy. The businesses that can adapt in terms of letting people into the attractions. So a lot of areas now in the larger centers, they're having those booked times. So you have a 1 hour time slot to go to the zoo, or go to the science center, or go to this attraction, and then after that hour, they clear everyone out and sanitize, and then bring everyone back in. So the areas that have the ability to funnel guests through kind of in that way are surviving or managing a little better. But it's the smaller centers that really rely fully on the peak seasons and the full restaurants and full attractions and things like that they're really struggling. So it's the larger attractions, like the major cities, the major tourist destinations that are kind of the stereotypical ones, they're doing fairly well. But as you said, when you go to those smaller towns, it's getting bad, and I don't foresee it getting much better in the coming months for sure. So basically, what we're seeing is that travel is definitely shifting as we go through. When we first did the show back in, I believe in April or May there, it was all speculation in terms of what people were looking at doing and where they were going to go. But now we have kind of the hard concrete numbers in terms of people's cancellations and their postponements of trips, what they're shifting their trips to as opposed to what they were looking at before. So, 2/3 of Canadians have canceled or changed their trip plans in the last few months. So that's a pretty substantial amount of revenue that is just largely lost because people just decided to opt out of their trip and to change it. What we are seeing, though, is the benefit is that people are actually transitioning from international and flight-based trips to domestic and car-based travel. So there is a huge opportunity there to really capitalize on the car-based travel. Oh, I was improvising. You guys are back? I just kept rambling there. You guys are back. All right.
Yeah. we had to accommodate here, so that might happen. Good job on that, by the way.
Well, it might not have been that good of a job, but who knows?
That's hilarious. Well, the nice thing is it all recorded for you, and everything's there. Well, that's the beauty about it, right? Okay, so I missed it. So you know what? Here's the beautiful thing. I get to go back and now listen to it because I missed it. So I can't go on without hearing your answer. What about, Eddie? Let's say, what about the numbers? What are they telling us about Canadian traveler confidence?
Yeah, so that's what I improvised. So now I get a second chance to answer here. So we'll so basically yeah, so back when we did this show, was it June that I was on? I forget. It seems like it was forever ago.
Yeah,
But
it was.
back then it was largely speculation, right? Because it was the start of the summer season. No one really knew what was going to happen. Now we have kind of those concrete numbers in terms of what people have actually done. So 2/3 of Canadians have basically just canceled or changed their trip because they don't want to risk anything with the COVID. What we're seeing though is that it's actually in the long term maybe more beneficial to Canadian tourism because people are actually shifting from those international and flight-based trips to more domestic and car-based trips, right? So those people who go and spend thousands of dollars in Europe or in Mexico or places like that, they're more inclined to stay in Canada now. So that's one potential benefit of all of this is that the money that would be spent on international travel is now being spent on domestic travel. The challenge though is that when are people actually going to do that, right? So domestic travel, it was pretty good in the summer. There were several destinations that were pretty successful in the summer. Not to any means what they would have been in the comparable time last year. But now with the shoulder season coming and the winter season coming, it's going to be a challenge just because the restaurants don't have patios anymore. So what happens to their capacity? The outdoor attractions, we live in a land where it's pretty cold sometimes. So when it's -40, you're not going to really want to go and walk around the outdoor attractions, right? So there's a lot of question marks now in terms of what's going to happen in the coming months, right? Because people adapted to the summer months. They changed their patio setups, they changed their delivery services, they changed their outdoor attraction capacities. When it comes to the winter, how are they going to modify to meet those needs? So it's that's a challenge. But with respect to confidence, it's tricky, right? Because Canadians want to travel. So 3/4 of Canadians, they're looking forward to traveling again. They want to get out there, they want to go, and they want to see and they want to do. At the same time, less than 2/3 of them are actually comfortable right now traveling. So there's that strong need. They want to get out there, but they just don't feel that level of comfort to actually do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but then, there's kind of that, and we see it when we look at the international stats with respect to Americans versus Canadians. The Canadian stats were far more risk averse than Americans are. So a lot of the people in our U.S. study, they basically said they're ready to go. They want to travel. They'll go to the international travel. They'll go to Canada. They'll go to Mexico. They're more comfortable doing that. Whereas Canadians are far less comfortable traveling outside of their own province, let alone outside of their country. So there's a major risk aversion in the mindset of Canadians right now that they're pretty fearful of the second wave. They're fearful of themselves getting it, their friends getting it. They want to avoid places with large people and large groups. They just want to try and get as isolated as possible, which is what you guys are doing, right? You're in the perfect trip right now. The ability to avoid groups of people, but to still get the perfect Canadian experience is what people are looking for. Yep. I think a lot of people just don't know how to do it or how to get it is the challenge.
I think that's a very, very good point. I mean, I can't say that this trip would be the one that we would doing our major trip for the year would be the Yukon if there was no COVID, because there's other areas that we need to see. And it's the rules within the travel that you can do. And I can tell you right now, I felt very safe on this trip. Not having anyone around me, maybe except a black bear, grizzly, and a raven for 600 kilometers, I felt pretty safe.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about physical distancing, except like we discussed earlier, going into towns, and I understand the. You can see the confidence just when you're in towns. That everyone is there's an edge, right? There's an edge out there.
Yeah, and especially, we done some research where it's how accepting are you of people coming to your town from other cities, from other, from your province,
Yeah.
from the States. So there's definitely reluctance in several areas in Canada to I don't know if accept people is the right word, but to bring people into their towns. There's kind of that, it's almost like a double-edged sword where you need people to come to your town to help that town thrive and survive. At the same
Yep.
time, there's that, as you said, they're on edge. They don't really necessarily want those large groups of people, and they don't want people coming to their town and kind of jumping around. So there's that awkward balance where it's where the safety kind of valve shuts off essentially. So it's a balancing act where and that's one thing we're seeing is that the communication around the safety and the protocols and the sanitization and all.
Yep. Okay. So if that's the case, then tell me this, Eddie. Where are they going? Wherever's going. You said I understand that there's a lot of mixed messaging, right? And I think that's a big thing. We don't know where we can go, like you mentioned earlier. But so where are they going? Are they going are most people staying within the 200-kilometer bubble? Are they doing the provincial? Or are they cross borders like we did? Because we did our research and said we're allowed. What are people doing? Are they just staying home? Is no one doing traveling?
It's a bit of a mixed bag again. So, the majority of Canadians, about 2/3 of Canadians, they're comfortable traveling within their province right now. So they'll stay within their kind of provincial boundaries. A lot of people, I think it's up to about 3/4 Canadians, they're taking those short haul trips. So, within that 300-kilometer kind of drive, doing the 1 to 3 night overnight trips for some people. But it's a lot of short haul travel. It's a lot of people just kind of going on the highway for an hour, doing a day trip, going to see some attractions. I know a lot of cities are starting to do kind of the urban experience as well. So I know in Calgary here, they started kind of a citywide scavenger hunt, trying to get people to explore the city and go through different areas you might not have otherwise done. So the majority of travel right now is that staycation-based experience.
Okay. Yeah.
Some people, comfort levels as you leave your provincial borders, they start to decrease a little bit. So pretty much everyone's okay traveling within their region. That drops when it comes to provincial travel. Once you go outside of your provincial borders, the comfort levels are much lower. They're actually looking for the government to basically say it's safe to do so. And then once the government says, you can travel outside of your provincial borders, then people are okay going across Canada. When it comes to leaving the country, though, it's basically a vaccine or bust. So we find most people, their level of comfort leaving Canada is so low, and they say that it's not until there's a vaccine that they're willing to go elsewhere. So for us leaving the country, it's a pretty big hit, right? Because that's it's definitely there's definitely still some time for that to actually happen. International travel, like I said, it varies by country. So as I said, Americans they're much less risk averse. I was actually reading this morning that since the borders have been closed, the land border has been closed, there have been 18,000 people that have been turned away. And of that 18,000, about a quarter of them have come up saying they want to do sightseeing. So there's still, still a large portion of people that are trying to come to Canada and trying to get across the border. But, with the land border being closed, it's tough.
What about the Alaska loophole?
Yeah. So they've, there's the tags now, right? I think they put in that information. So if you're going from the States to Alaska, you have to put a tag in your car saying that's what you're doing. So which is it's easy enough to take out a tag, but that was it last week they put in that rule for the tags? I'm not sure when it came into play, but
pretty recent. We saw some U.S. plates up in the Yukon here, and we don't know how they got here.
They've been seeing some in Banff here too.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. So you're saying that a lot of the long hauls are gone. So are we looking like right now with the domestic tourism being our nest egg, probably for another year minimum? Are we looking at maybe trips trips right now are very short, so we're looking maybe a 2-night or a day trip, and then we're looking at how are they traveling? Are most people doing like us, getting on some wheels and taking off, or is that pretty much where it's staying?
Yeah, so kind of for all indications on our part, it seems like it's mostly the hit the rubber and go. So comfort levels
Yep.
right now in your own vehicle they're high. People are very comfortable taking a road trip and going somewhere. But when it comes to getting on the different modes, so airplanes, the bus, trains, cruise ships, that's kind of that's been the hardest hit, I would say, arguably.
Yep.
They're just not comfortable in those areas, and you know we don't know if it's for certain if it's the mode of transportation or the destination that's what's decreasing levels of comfort. So when we ask people how comfortable would you be on an international flight, most people don't say they'd be that comfortable. But is it the mode or is it the outcome that their comfort kind of is
That's a
impacted by?
good question, right? That's a
Yeah, and
very good
it's
question.
likely
Never even
both
thought
too.
about it.
It's
Yeah.
likely both, but when we see comfort levels of domestic flights compared to international flights, so people are more comfortable on domestic flights than they are on international flights. So, with
Yep.
that right there, it's kind of some indication that it's not the mode, it's the outcome. Because when you're traveling within your country, you know what to expect. You know the
Yeah.
healthcare and what to kind of generate that way. When you go to international destinations without COVID
Mhm.
insurance, it's tricky. There's a much greater
Yeah.
level of risk tied to it.
Yep. That totally makes sense. Here's a funny thing that happened to us. International travel is pretty much in a dead zone right now. But here the other day, we get quite a few emails through text and through our email through the office. Is that the other day we had somebody come in, and we get this quite often. It says, when are you guys going to open the border? When are you guys going to open this Canadian border? When we want to come to Canada, when are you opening that border? Right. So, like you said earlier, there's this wall building up on the other side, can't waiting to come in.
Mhm.
What's your opinion on this reopening? When is it going to? Are we looking at a year? Are we looking at 6 months? What do you think? 2 years? What are they saying on the American side? What are they saying on the Canadian side?
Yeah, I know. So currently, I believe it's September 21st or 22nd. I think it's when the land borders close until.
No.
I've heard early rumors that that's going to be pushed until at least December or January. So, and that's been happening, right? So since they closed the border back in June or
Yep.
May, I guess, as we've come closer to the reopening, they've pushed it and they've pushed it and they've pushed it. So, I don't foresee there being a time in which they reopen the land border. Air travel still that's still a go, right? So you can fly internationally. The challenge there though is the quarantine. So we did this show back in June together. It's the same as it was then. You still have to quarantine for 14 days. So unless you have
Yep.
a 6 week vacation, you're not going to be able to do anything because you're spending 2 weeks on each end in quarantine. So and
Yeah.
there's no indication that that's loosening up at all. So it's
It makes it pretty tough to take a trip when you got 2 weeks on at your destination to hunker in a hotel room at $200, $500 a night.
Well, yeah, unless you have a great view, there's not much
Yeah.
you can really do with that, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
there's honestly no, and I know it's pretty kind of it's grim news, but there's no indication that the border is going to reopen or that the international travel is going to ramp back up. So, and I know a lot of the marketing destination marketing organizations they're now shifting their international marketing dollars to domestic marketing just because that's where
Yep.
all of the revenue is going to come from now. So
Yep.
there's definitely been a lot of, and I was actually reading up in the Northwest. They've created some grants for businesses that when they rely mainly on tourism, they're providing them with grants because without tourism, their business it'll shutter. So they're kind of creating some new initiatives to help people in the smaller businesses that are solely dependent on tourism survive.
Hmm. Hmm. So here's a question, and I gotta phrase this right. Um, if the tourism, if here's we understand it's domestic tourism, and it's domestic. Everyone in Canada realizes it's only going to be in Canada. Everyone in Canada realizes we can only travel within our province or within that bubble, right?
Hmm.
So we're taking these millions and millions of dollars out there that we used to use to market to China and the U.S. And now we're marketing to a Canadian public who already knows it's domestic tourism, who already knows we can only go so far and everything. these associations are now who are screaming for funding. They're screaming for a lot of money. Why are they taking these millions and millions of dollars advertising to the Canadian public who already knows we need to do domestic tourism, who already knows all this? Why don't they take that money and invest in programs to help small businesses in tourism to self-manage, self-promote? This is what I don't get. Why they're like marketing to somebody who already knows the answer.
Yeah, I think there's been a shift of recent kind of events to start providing some funds. I'm not sure exactly. I don't really know much about the grants or anything like that for the federal provincial grants, but I know some larger destinations have been, or DMOs have been kind of allowing or providing funds to help some businesses kind of survive that way, or creating grants and co-op kind of agreements. I think at the same time, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier there. It's you kind of get comfortable in your own area and you don't necessarily know what there is to experience. So, for my wife and I, we would generally do an international trip kind of in the summer and go overseas. But instead, this year I've been in Alberta for 12 years, and this is my first time going to Sylvan Lake up in Elba. So we're doing trips like that as opposed to doing the international travel. So I think I think there's a lot of opportunity that people just aren't aware of within kind of their own backyard, to say that way. So I think it's important to do that. At the same time, it's they're marketing the safety and the cautious approach, and they're trying to do those things as well to try and promote people being a little more cautious in the areas, because if they're not, this thing's going to fire back up again, and it's we're going to hit the pause button on everything again. So it's a tricky situation for sure for the advertising and support side of things.
As in being in this road trip where we come basically from middle BC all the way up into the north, one thing that really opened our eyes up is all the major centers. They have all their service and so forth, but these little communities in between are getting decimated. I mean, I've never seen it this bad before. So and this is sort of off topic, but what can we do as an industry to help these little communities where their only survival is drive-by traffic in a lot of instances, that one tourist attraction in a lot of instances? What can we do as an industry for these little places?
I think and we saw this in some research we did back in May, and we're doing a second phase of it at the end of this month. So even regardless of size, the challenge is that people just can't afford to market their business anymore. So it's because they're, especially now, once the phases start to reopen, businesses now are having to, first of all, their capacity is reduced. So no one's operating at full capacity right now, and if they are, they're essentially breaking all the rules. So the capacity is low, so you're not generating the amount of money you would usually do. At the same time, you also have to put all these different things in place, like the safety protocols, the plexiglass dividers. You have to have PPE for people everywhere. So we're having to spend so much more money now on things that these businesses would not have budgeted for. And now on top of that, they have to continue to market their attraction and market their bed and breakfast and market their restaurant. So, there's a huge need for these smaller towns and smaller attractions and destinations to get support with marketing and, get the awareness out there, because places that are, when you think of like the Niagara Falls and the Banff and Lake Louise and Whistler and places like that, they don't necessarily need marketing. People know them. They're top of mind. They're very well known places. But when you look a little bit further into places like Dawson's Creek or Valemont or places like that in kind of northern BC, they don't have the ability to reach the audience anymore. So they have this very captive group of domestic travelers that want to go and they want to explore, but they can't reach them. So I think that's the one critical need right now, is that the smaller areas need assistance with marketing, and they need assistance with getting their opportunities out there.
So that what you're saying in a lot of ways is like our Experience Community program, which is self-marketing with no money, with no costs involved, and it teaches them how to do social media, guerrilla market. I mean, the next battle zone for the tourism is on the internet. Do we agree on that, right? That's where we're going to win and lose, is the communities that have an internet presence when people start searching again.
Yeah, if when it comes to SEO, if you're not on the top of that search engine, you're going to be overlooked, right? Especially people are looking for yeah, not to simplify, but people are looking for those quick and easy trips, right? They want to get out, they want to see things, and they're going to go on, the Search Explorer and look for whatever they can. If you don't rise to the top of that SEO, you might not be found. So that the online presence it's critical for the survival of a lot of these places.
Well, the one community just before COVID hit that we were working for is in the Nickel Valley. And in the 1 year, the program that we put together brought the 1,400 new top 10 search positions on Bing, Firefox, and Google. And it's such a difference now online. And that's what they need. I think that's what small communities need is I agree that it's not just the money part of marketing, but it's also the time. They don't have the time. They don't have the skill set, and they don't have the funding. So if you can get those out of the picture and give them a program that they don't have to hire staff to do, they don't have to pay a lot of money to do, it doesn't take a lot of time to manage because it's all on a third-party management system. It makes sense. So yeah, I totally agree with you. What you say is that they need it. But here's the one thing that we've learned in our career in tourism is that because they've been getting the same message and all the models out there now are they're urban center marketing models, and they don't work in the small community of 6,000 people. They don't work in the community of 10,000 people. And I think that's where the disconnect, and I think they're starting to follow that up. And that's why we're excited that with our program getting out there that I think it's going to help a lot of communities, hopefully. But anyways, it's not about us, is it, Eddie?
Well, no, but and that wasn't a planned segue, so that was great.
No,
but,
it wasn't. It wasn't planned.
But I think when we look at when we look at what people are looking for now in terms of destinations, part of it is that ability to avoid large crowds, right? So when you look at selecting a destination before, and these things still play a role, right? So you're looking for attractions and iconic landmarks and unique experiences and food and culinary, whatever. But now when we look at the top factors of what you look for in a destination, it's none of those things, right? The number one thing people are looking for in destinations now is a clear communication of what you're doing to protect people from COVID. And then after that, it's being COVID free, which is a challenge for most areas. But the third one is the ability to avoid large crowds. So if you look at those smaller towns and those smaller centers, they provide that. They have the ability to say, come here. There's not going to be 10,000 people standing around a single icon. You can have your space. You can have the unique experience, small town feel. So I think there's a way to capitalize on the ability to avoid those crowds and still get a great experience in those smaller areas. The issue is just communicating that message. And as we just said, that's a challenge right now. Because even staffing, when you look at staffing, a lot of these areas, they're having such a struggle. They're struggling so much to restaff their operations to capacity, just because there's so many options for people right now, so they can basically pick and choose where they want to work. A lot of people are trying, they're deciding to stay on CERB, so that also is a challenge for bringing people back to the workforce. So they can barely staff their operations, let alone staff the ability to do in-house kind of things like that. So it's a real challenge for sure.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and just with because we deal with a lot of the smaller communities. I don't think we're not big enough yet for the bigger ones, but watch out, we're coming. But what's happening with the smaller communities, we find is that so many of them wear like 3 or 4 hats, right? And you just can't give them another hat. They're volunteering for 3 different organizations. That takes up their night time. I mean, some of these people, I don't know how they do it, to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah, no, it's tough.
Yeah. So what do you think, Eddie, is the fallout? What's gonna when the industry does right, when COVID is done, and even if it's never done, but it's manageable. What do you, if you were to look like in a Jetson way, the future? Let's see the future of tourism. What are you seeing out there for the future of the travel industry? What's the envision? How's it going to be different?
What we're looking for as travelers is it's going to change, and even once it's a vaccine and once things kind of settle down, no matter what happens, the experiences that we're looking for are going to be different, probably for for a long time. And we found that about 3/4 of people fully intend on changing the way they travel moving forward, regardless of kind of the state of COVID. So, a lot of it's avoiding peak season travel. It's avoiding large crowds, taking more trips within the province, taking less international trips. So I think the one thing we'll see moving forward is that domestic travel will be stronger, I think. So I think that's one thing we can really take out of this, is that people are growing an appreciation of domestic travel and regional travel and provincial travel. So once international travel picks back up, that plus the domestic travel will really help tourism thrive. And tourism is a resilient industry, so it's definitely hard times right now. And I know a lot of businesses are closing, and tens of billions of dollars are being lost. There's over 500,000 jobs that have been lost. So it's definitely it's not a pretty picture right now for a lot of these areas. But when you look at a lot of the adversity tourism's faced in recent years, and especially different provinces have different challenges and issues with tourism, it's resilience. It's just a matter of how long can people sustain their business in order to make it through. And I think that's where a lot of the federal and provincial grants are critical for a lot of these individuals. The partnerships, the co-ops, all that stuff. They need those. But so I think the businesses that will survive are the ones who can best adapt to the situation. And then, that's what I said earlier in terms of shifting your capacity rules and restrictions, providing online service delivery services, having partnerships or packages with different attractions or destinations, for bed and breakfasts, changing how you structure your guest experience or things like that. So it's the adaptability that will help people survive. But we will likely see a significant turnover for sure. There's going to be a lot of businesses that won't be able to make it through the foreseeable future, just because it's the summer months, for those that thrive in summer months. Now we're entering the shoulder season and the off season, and it's going to be tricky.
Yeah. So that's sort of a good segue into what I wanted to ask you next. Is that okay? So the summer season, and we all know this, and this. I'm guaranteed you know this. You're the expert. But a lot of the businesses here take 3 to 4 months of the summer to pay 12 months of bills, and that's the scary part. Is we got no summer, and now we're going into the next 8 months of bills. And I think the worst part of tourism. I'm not trying to be a negative view on things. I'm a very optimistic person when I try to look at the industry, but I think we're going to see a lot of things falling out in the next little bit here when the fall season kicks.
I think one thing is there's a big opportunity right now. So when you look at the shoulder season and the off season are there because people are back at school, or they're back at work, or they don't have the ability to travel during the summer like they would if they went to the States or to international trips. Now with people being relatively landlocked, now you have an opportunity to transition that shoulder season or transition that off season to still generate some revenue, because now it's not a matter of if people are only doing 300-kilometer trips kind of on average, that gives you those weekend warriors still to capitalize on during these shoulder season and off season. So there's some potential to capitalize on the shift in the mentality of the traveler. It's just a matter of are the expenses that would be incurred to keep your business operating going to be offset by the money you would generate by having a few people come on the weekend, or a few people come for the odd day trip kind of thing. So it all comes down to how, I've said it a few times now, it's all how you can adapt to the situation and the needs of the traveler. But if there's an opportunity to increase domestic travel to your product throughout the off season and the shoulder season, then I think that will help offset some of the money that was lost in the peak season summer months.
Okay. Christine here brought an interesting question. She's going, the hard part is balancing local people's fears of inviting travelers in. So she's saying basically that there's a big the big problem with the smaller communities is that to the locals to have a welcoming feature for travelers to come in some towns that's not the case.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the green room. There's the stories of the you see in different license plates in your province that that aren't from your province, that people are getting a little bit, they're a little skeptical of them being there. They're not as welcoming, and it's not the masses, it's
Yep.
just, you hear the few stories that come up because they're newsworthy. I think it's important
Yep.
it's all comes down to communication. So you need to be able to communicate what you're doing as a town or as a city to not only protect the travelers, but to protect your residents, right? So I think
Yep.
a lot of the focus is on the people coming to your town and not necessarily the people that are in your town or city. So I think that's a huge
That's very
huge
good.
thing that needs to be considered right there, is
Yep.
to really inform and educate the locals as to what you're doing to help them even.
I think that's the big gap. I think that's brilliant, because I think that, based on our experience, I think that's exactly what's happening. Is all the focus is on the traveler, but you're not preparing the locals or getting their feedback and getting them on board.
Yeah, exactly. And it's if the locals can buy into it, then
Yeah.
it will help that area kind of survive and thrive too, right? So some of the smaller
Yeah.
towns I worked with before, you kind of have that brand ambassador, the tourism ambassador. So the locals are the ones, they're kind of your guides, and they'll tell you what to do and where to go, and they'll tell
Yeah.
you their secret favorite hiding spot or hiking spot. Um, so it's those experiences that help those small towns have that unique and small town feel. But if there's that that feeling
Hmm.
of vulnerability, or if people are uncomfortable, people coming to their town, it's going to harm that small town feel, right? If everyone's on edge and kind of walking on eggshells, it's not an authentic experience. So I think it's really
Yeah.
important to inform the locals of what you're doing.
That's brilliant. That's exactly what I think. I totally agree 100% on that. I think that's the that's the missing gap in a lot of it, is to get that sort of bridge before you take the leap, make that bridge, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what does the future look like for our wonderful industry that we all love and care about and are working hard to promote? What's in store for the Canadian tourism industry? I mean, the figures are, more than anyone, that the domestic international figures are going to be shifting all over the map
Yep.
on with this new mentality of the traveler. So what do you see for what's the future for the Canadian tourism industry?
I think when we were in when we're in our most recent poll, it's basically that people are starting to shift the mindset now to book and plan travel. So, throughout the summer, there's a
Yep.
huge shift to cancel travel, change their plans, and postpone trips. Whereas now it's people are starting to tentatively or fully book travel. It definitely is. It's
Yep.
it's on the downward trend though until December or so, which is pretty typical. It's just now the challenge is having gone through a down season into a down season. It's kind of a double whammy. But a lot of travel it looks like it's going to increase around kind of February, March. So people are booking trips a little bit further out. And again, the situation with COVID it's evolving so quickly that could get pushed again, and people
Yep.
might be
Yep.
postponing and canceling again. But right now, it looks like people are kind of planning about 6 months out, give or take. So that's the current indication, is that
Hmm.
that's when people are more inclined or more willing to travel. So it's 6 months. Any other year might not seem like very long, but this time around, 6 months it's going to be very, very challenging for a lot of businesses to make it through to that point.
Yeah. So if the small, because our main business is dealing with the small communities and small businesses, and thank you to Make Heater and Melvina White, who we plugged about Nickel Valley. They're talking about our program on your show, Eddie. I don't know what's going on here. I'm taking over. I don't know, Eddie. Look out. Um, they're all loving you too. Oh, now they're gonna all start loving you too and leaving me out. So you're good. You're good, buddy. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and it's really interesting because, as you know, in Canada, we have two major airlines, right? And then you
Yep.
got your secondary airlines. You got North Air, you got Porter Air, you got all these guys. Um, we don't have an influx of airlines coming in and out of here, going out for Canadian-owned airlines. So that industry, I'm really interested what the analytics are telling you about the airline industry.
Yeah, it's still the projections are actually still pretty comparable to what they were at the start of COVID. So they're kind of estimating it's going to be
Yeah.
about a 4-year turnaround for financial recovery from the airline industry. So, when you look at the smaller airlines like Porter and Flair and all those different areas,
Hmm.
um, they're going to have a much more challenging time because they don't have the financial backing to make it through 4 years essentially. So when you look at that,
Yeah.
it's tough. But the projections, yeah, the projections are still 4 years, and I know the major two airlines, when you look at their vacation bookings, their international bookings, they're barely doing a tenth of what they would do in a day for business before. So even though the
Yeah.
larger airlines,
Yeah.
they're really having a challenge to go through. And domestic flights, they're doing fairly well still. So at least the two major ones, they have the ability to really capitalize on those two. But it's still hard
Hmm.
without that international travel and the vacation-based travel. It's a huge hit to the revenue.
I don't even know how it's going to work because can you still have four side, 4 and 4 on each side, or are they going to have to put like, are they going to have to space, or are they going to have to take seats out? And they won't make money if they do that.
Yeah, I think so. They did reduce it to they took the middle seats out, but I believe that's shifted again. So I'm not sure if I think they've changed the seating restrictions, or they've reduced the restrictions again. But that's a fear
Hmm.
of people too, is that a lot of the travel is there's one of the main concerns is the increased costs tied to travel. So because hotels and airlines and all these different areas have lost so much money, there's a perceived notion that you know to make up for that, they're going to start charging more. So a $400 flight will now be $700 or that kind of thing. So, and we haven't seen that change just yet. But that's definitely a concern in the mind of the traveler, is that to make up for lost time, essentially, that a lot of these operators are going to start increasing their prices and make it relatively unattainable. I think
Yeah.
I think I think smarter minds will prevail on that one, is because if you increase the prices due to the economy is struggling significantly. So if you make it where people can't even afford to travel, you're setting yourself up for continued failure. So I think a lot of the businesses will be smart about that, and not jack up prices to make up
Yep.
for the
Yep.
lost revenue. But that's definitely a
Yep.
concern in the minds of travelers.
Cliff here's on our little talk here. He's also asking about the border. He's worried about next summer. He's saying that if the border isn't open, that a lot of Vancouver Island are on the west coast where we grew up on Vancouver Island. A lot of them are going to be bankrupt.
Yeah, and I'm from where I'm
So,
I'm from a small town close to Niagara Falls, so a lot of border travel there as well. So
ah,
it's
yeah,
the industries like that thrive on those day trips from the states that kind of cruise up and stay there for a
yeah,
weekend or a day trip. So yeah, the border travel, it's a challenging situation because I understand why they haven't reopened it, but for the tourism industry and a lot of other industries to survive, the border is going to need to have some kind of reopening phase in the near future. But as I said earlier, it's looking like it's going to be pushed again. So all indications say potentially until December.
yeah.
So next summer is hard to project still because it's all just changing so rapidly.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I mean, I can't believe how fast it's changed since last time we talked.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's just the whole tourism industry is on a different level. Uh, Eddie, is there, you're always a joy, and I really appreciate you coming to the show. I just, we could talk for hours. I mean, it's really enjoyable talking with you. So that's why we like having you back. But unfortunately, we can only do an hour. And is there anything, any topic or any analytics or anything that we've missed out you want to touch on?
no, I think we covered a lot in the 45 minutes or 50 minutes we talked about there. I think yeah, I think
Yeah,
the important thing is
we're
it's
becoming, we're becoming pros, buddy.
yeah, well, yeah. We don't even need a show sheet anymore. We can just kind of dive into it and then just talk through it. So
Just go. Yeah, yeah. I love it. Do our stick. Do our stick.
yeah,
Right. Good. Good. Anything you want to leave with the audience there, big guy?
yeah.
Are
No, I
you
think
good?
if we're at Leger we do a weekly tracker in terms of tons of different. It was COVID
Uh,
focused for the first little while, but now we're doing a bunch of different topics. So last week we did views in the presidential election. We're doing views on going back to school. So yeah, if
yeah.
you're interested in that, go to leger360.com. There you go, and you can sign up for the weekly newsletter to get that weekly tracker. So it's packed of
Yeah.
information, and we're continually doing kind of top of mind topics. So that's probably the best way to go to get new
Yeah.
resources.
the other thing, and I'll plug it for you because I'm a big fan of yours, is I like how you guys at Leger, you do your flashcard posts where you do one statistic, you got a question, and then you do your statistic that you got on it. So you got 86 Americans, 33, whatever. I
Yep.
love those things because it really shows up on my feed high. I don't know how you get high on my feed. I don't know what you guys did, but it's amazing. But I like those because it's a nice quick snapshot, and you're covering all the tourism ones, especially you. You do
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of tourism ones, which I enjoy. So I tell everyone watching the show if you're on LinkedIn, and also you do it on Facebook, I believe.
Yep.
If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, flag these guys down, give them a follow, show them the support. You'll learn a heck of a lot about tourism. If anything, you'll learn a lot about tourism, and it will help you get through the rough patches that are ahead. So again, that's leger360.com, or follow Mr. Edwin Sheppard on LinkedIn. It's EdwinSheppard on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get all your posts. Eddie, it has been a hoot. Thanks for playing. It was a fun chatting to you from the Yukon, wearing my beard just for you. I knew you'd be a good guest for a beard, right? I thought, yes, bring Eddie on for the beard show.
I'd appreciate it.
So
It's
good
not
on you.
playoff. It's not playoff beard because the Oilers are out. Is that anyway? But it's
Ow! Ow! I'm so embarrassed. That was a good shot. That was a good shot. Now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go sulk on live TV. Yes. Yeah. Humiliated. I think the word was humiliated. Yeah. The
yeah.
beard came off real quick. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. I
Okay,
appreciate
Eddie.
it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's been a blast, and we will get you to come again. I hope in another 3 months. You might be president by then, the way you're going. So hopefully, we'll see you then. But congratulations on the promotion, Eddie. Well deserved, and continued success, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. You guys, you as well.
Okay.
All right.
Ciao.
Take care.
Bye. So that was our friend Eddie Sheppard from Leger Marketing and Polling. Again, the follow this. I mean, I've learned a lot off polling, and you know how I am. I do a lot of research. I love my tourism. Um, Eddie has been a great source. His company's been a great source. You can get all of this again on 360.com, leger360.com, or Edwin Sheppard, EdwinSheppard on LinkedIn. Give him a follow. Try to connect. And if you're real nice, you'll probably accept it. So there you go. You could find him on there. So again, a little bit about our show or the A-Travel Marketing Group. This is our first broadcast, and thank you, Eddie, for participating, because it's no easy feat being on live, online live when the internet is iffy. So kudos to Leger for Mr. Eddie Sheppard for coming on board. Broadcasting from the Maple Leaf RV from the Canadian Superstore parking lot on our way to Watson Lake after this show. We're excited about that. So we are the specialists in community tourism marketing programs. We touched a bit on here. There were some really nice positive comments in the chat section about the Experience Community Program. Some of the people that live in that community have spoken up and said it's done wonders. If you do have a small community and you'd like to have a program that helps you market through this, that takes no time, no staff, little funding, and very successful, give us a shout, and we'll put you in touch with some people that are using it right now, and they'll let you know on how to do that. So small towns, give us a call. If you want to learn about tourism, give Mr. Edwin Sheppard a call, or leger360.com. Book Canadian, people. Plan Canadian, share Canadian. We are 100% Canadian. You can still travel, people. It's not illegal to travel. But travel smart, as Edwin said. Follow the rules, follow the guidelines, go in your comfort zone. Travel's not fun if you're not comfortable. I mean, if you're going to go travel and be stressed out, don't go there. If you're comfortable and you're comfortable with your destination, on how you're going to get there and how you're going to react with different people along the way, and you're going to be smart about it, there are possibilities. We figured out a way. We chose a route that we love very much. We know that physical distancing would be pretty easy. And we really enjoyed our decision. So please see the country. Don't ignore the country. See the country. And if you can go 100 kilometers out of the town and feel comfortable, do it. Because the people who live in that little town 100 kilometers away from you appreciate it. And they need that money. So kudos to them. Colin, you got anything from the peanut gallery over there?
Awesome show, bro.
Ah, see, another Edwin fan in the background.
Yeah, awesome show, Eddie.
Yep. We got a couple kudos. Now all of a sudden they're all talking about Eddie and not talking about us. I mean, he just stole our fans.
Very
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
why do we invite this guy? He just takes all our followers and brings them over to Lincoln.
Does he have a brother?
I don't. Yes, he's a good sport, that guy. Okay, so that's our show tonight from the Yukon, White Horse, Yukon Ontario, on the Yukon River. We are a stone's throw from the Yukon River, a different spot, not where the Beavers are building the dam, but follow us for our videos. We're going to have a whole bunch of wicked videos. We also are going to have some great photo galleries, and we're also going to do a lot of social media posting, and maybe next show we'll have something for you to show you at the end on the isolation vacation. So that's our show brought to you from the Yukon Territories, our first road show. If you want us to come to your community, light them up, give us an email, and we'll see if we can do it with physical distancing. Yukon Rock, thank you, the Yukon, for your hospitality. Thank you for sharing your scenery. Thank you for having wildlife, and we got to see them again. It's been a joy. This has been fantastic. And somebody really enjoyed Dawson City. And of course, the moose, right? The moose. This is the moose guy. If you want to see a moose, hang out with Colin. Don't hang out with me because all your, yeah, see, there you go. Okay, take care, Canada. Be well, explore often. Tourism Brothers out. It's been a blast. Peace out. We'll see you on the rebound.